I'm again faced with designing and making the rule joint for this shaker table. The rule joint is the very functional, structural, and beautiful connection of the table leaves to allow the folding of the table. The joint is tricky and requires my review of the details and procedure every time. Of course, it helps to work through the process in SketchUp before moving into the shop. Then you know you've got it right. So in the following video, I'll show how to make this joint in SketchUp. But whether you're in the shop or in SketchUp, the first thing you need to know is the size and detailed design and arrangement of the rule joint hinges. Hinge suppliers usually provide some details, but it is best to buy the hinges to have on hand to verify the details. I started with a scanned image of a particular hinge from Horton Brasses, catalog number H-150. Here's the photo imported to SketchUp. Then I traced over the shape of the hinge and the details of the two halves of the hinge. Then I took the trace over flat image and turned that into a full-size model, including the barrel of the hinge, the rotation, and the nested two halves of the hinge that allows the rotation like this. So this is the first thing you really need to know, whether you're putting it into SketchUp or not. You need to have the hinge to design a rule joint. These hinges, note that there's a relationship here, a geometry, that the rotation, the center of rotation is lined up with these two edges of the hinge. And particularly, you need to know the thickness of the hinge, because that establishes the center of rotation. Okay, so let's get started. Here we have a butted up top and a butted up leaf, and we want to put a rule joint at this location here. And to start out, I need to get that hinge and place it onto the joint location. And I'm going to place the center of rotation of the hinge right on that butt joint. But I need to raise up the hinge so that it's embedded in the top, the bottom face of the top, and flush with the, I'll bring it up flush so the hinge is embedded into the lower surfaces of the leaf, the leaves, and the top. Those will be cut in later in the process. I'm going to edit the top component first and come down with a little fillet. I'm going to make the fillet about 1/8 inch. Sometimes this is 3/16 of an inch deep. I'm making that fillet 1/8 inch deep. And then I picking the circle tool and coming up to the end of that fillet and making the circle. And then at the point here, I'm going to bring a straight vertical line down, and I can erase quite a bit of this circle and that piece at that location. So at this point, I want to add this shape to the edge of the top. Use the push-pull tool with the control key, and that adds the shape onto the edge of the top. Just to see what this looks like now, I'll hide the leaf. We can see the added portion here and the fillet at the top. We can clean up and delete some of the extra lines and edges and hide this extra edge at this location with the control key and eraser. That's all that's needed on the edge of the top, but we need a matching joint on the edge of the leaf. Pick the circle tool again and go to the rotation point, which is the hinge center of rotation. Click at that same point, and in this case we are actually going to remove material from the leaf. On the top we added material, on the leaf we're taking material away. So with the push-pull tool we can push that material out. To the back edge, and to see what we've done, I'll hide the top so we can see the joint, and there's some extra lines and edges in there in that cove. I'm going to smooth that out. That looks like it works. So let's try it out. I'll unhide the top and we can actually do a rotation and see how it works. I've picked the leaf and the rotation tool. Click on the center of rotation and rotate the leaf 90 degrees. The hinge didn't go with it, obviously, but we can also go ahead and rotate the hinge. I'll do an edit on the hinge component, pick that part, that half of the hinge, pick the rotation tool and rotate the hinge 90 degrees. And everything looks like it is fitting quite well. The rest of the job is to position the hinges and I'm going to go about 8 inches in from the edge. Then there, obviously copy that hinge and run it down the other side. The remaining work is to chop out the space for the hinge itself. And that completes the construction of the rule joint.